In the wilderness, experienced hikers learn something very important. When you see smoke in the distance, you don't ignore it, because smoke rarely appears by accident. It usually means something is happening somewhere nearby. Maybe a small fire, maybe something beginning to spread. And if you notice the smoke early, you have time to respond. Sales conversations work the same way. Sometimes the earliest signs of trouble appear quietly, like smoke. Earlier this week, we explored how buyers send signals before they say yes. On Monday, we talked about radar detecting early signals of interest. On Wednesday, we explored footprints, understanding what buyer behavior reveals. But not every signal points toward progress. Sometimes the signals point to something else. Concern, hesitation, uncertainty. Those signals are smoke. Let's look at how this appears in real conversation. Imagine you're discussing a solution with a client. The conversation has been positive. The buyer understands the value, but then they say something small. Let me think about this internally. Now that statement isn't necessarily a rejection, but it can be smoke. Because sometimes it signals something happening inside the organization that hasn't been fully discussed yet. Maybe budget concern, maybe uncertainty about timing, maybe questions from another stakeholder. The signal itself is subtle, but it tells the seller something important. There may be a concern that hasn't surfaced yet. A thoughtful seller doesn't ignore the smoke. Instead, they explore it. They might respond. That makes sense. As you think about it internally, what questions do you think might come up from your team? This invites the concern into the conversation. And when concerns surface early, they are much easier to address. Sometimes smoke appears in another way, not through hesitation, but through distance. Imagine a buyer who was previously very engaged. They asked questions. They explored details. They seemed interested, but suddenly the energy of the conversation changes. Responses become shorter. Curiosity disappears. The conversation becomes quieter. That shift can be smoke. Something may have changed. Maybe internally, maybe in priorities, maybe in timing, but the change in engagement tells you something important. A strong seller notices the shift. Instead of continuing the presentation, they pause and ask something simple. I sense we may have shifted topics a bit. What's currently most important for your team right now? That question brings the conversation back to what matters, and often reveals the reason behind the change. Great sellers learn to notice early warning signs, small hesitations, subtle changes in engagement, quiet signals that something may be happening behind the scenes. These are not problems. They are simply information. And when the seller notices the smoke early, they can address the issue before it becomes a barrier. Throughout this week, we explored 3 different ways buyers communicate during conversations: signals detected by radar, clues revealed through footprints, and warning signs that appear like smoke. Most buyers never say everything they are thinking directly, but the signals are there, and the seller who learns to read them understands the deal long before the final answer arrives. The success lens. Change the lens, change the outcome.